Amara Dades grew up surrounded by everything money can buy. Born in Atlanta, Georgia, she was the only daughter of Charles and Adeline Dees, one of the wealthiest and most respected black families in the region. Charles Dees was a business magnate who owned several companies, including Dees Financial, a bank with branches in several states in the United States. His wife, Everly, was a renowned philanthropist, involved in various social causes, especially those focused on the black community. The Dees mansion, located in an exclusive neighborhood of Atlanta, was majestic, with meticulously maintained gardens and a staff dedicated to ensuring that everything was always perfect. Despite living in such luxurious surroundings, Amara was raised with strong values. Her parents instilled in her the importance of hard work, respect, and dignity. They were known not only for their wealth, but also for their integrity and commitment to the community. "Never forget where you come from," Charles would tell her as she walked through the bank's imposing halls, where he often took her to observe business operations. "Money can buy many things, but not respect. You have to earn it." Amara always admired her father's wisdom. At 20, she was an intelligent and determined young woman, already preparing to take on greater responsibilities in the family business. She studied business administration at one of the country's best universities, and during vacations, she did internships in various departments of the bank. Everything seemed to be going well until one fateful summer Amara began to experience unusual fatigue, something that not even rest could alleviate. At first, she thought it was simply stress from the pressure of studies and internships, but when other symptoms began to appear, such as persistent pain and unexplained weight loss, Everly insisted that she undergo a full battery of tests. "It's not just stress. You have to see a doctor," Everly said with concern evident in her voice. "I know, Mom. I'm just a little busy right now, but I promise I'll give you an appointment soon," Amara replied, trying to reassure her mother, even though she was starting to worry herself. After numerous consultations and tests, the devastating diagnosis came. Amara had a rare autoimmune disease that required intensive, specialized treatment available only at a medical center in Switzerland. The news shook the Dees family deeply. Charles and Everly spared no effort to ensure Amara received the best care. Within weeks, arrangements were made and Amara departed for Switzerland, leaving the life she knew behind. The night before her departure, the family gathered for a special dinner, sitting around the imposing mahogany table in their melon-colored dining room. Charles, Everly, and Amara tried to keep the mood relaxed, but the weight of the situation was palpable. "We will get through this together, my love," Charles said, holding his daughter's hand. "You are strong, and we will be with you every step of the way." Amara looked at her parents with gratitude and determination. "I know, Dad. I will fight with all my might. And when I return, I will be ready to continue our legacy." Everly smiled, trying to hold back her tears. "And we will be here waiting for you, Amara." That night, as she packed her bags, Amara reflected on everything she was leaving behind: her family, her friends, her studies, and that future that once seemed so promising. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but she also knew she had the unwavering support of her parents and the inner strength to face whatever came. As she took one last look at the Atlanta skyline from her bedroom window, she promised herself that she would come back stronger no matter what. The trip to Switzerland marked the beginning of a new chapter in Amara's life. On the plane, she felt a mix of anxiety and determination. The unknown horizon ahead of her intimidated her, but she was determined to face the challenges with courage. Upon her arrival in Geneva, she was greeted by a highly specialized medical team who took her to the treatment center located in a small village in the Swiss Alps. The first few weeks were especially hard. The treatment, which involved a combination of experimental drugs and intensive therapies, was physically and emotionally exhausting. Amara spent entire days in consultations, tests, and long treatment sessions. In the evenings, loneliness seemed to amplify the weight of her illness. On one of the most difficult days after a particularly painful session, Amara received a call from her mother. Everly's soft, comforting voice was a relief to Amara's exhausted spirit. "Amara, dear, how are you feeling today?" Everly asked, trying to calm her down. or to hide her concern. Amara hesitated before answering. "Today was a tough day, Mom. Sometimes I feel like I don't know if I can get through this." "I know it's hard, honey," Evely replied tenderly. "But remember, your father and I are thinking about you every moment, and you're stronger than you think." Those words were just what Amara needed to hear. Despite the hardships, she wasn't willing to give up. Each day she tried to find strength within herself, even when her body seemed to betray her resolve. As the months passed, the effects of the treatment began to manifest in unexpected ways. Amara, always proud of her appearance, began to notice drastic changes in her body. Her hair, once thick and shiny, began to fall out, and her skin, once radiant, turned pale, marked by the side effects of the medication. One cold winter night, as she looked in the mirror of her suite's small bathroom, Amara could barely recognize the reflection staring back at her. She ran her hand over her nearly bald head and sighed deeply. The reflection in the mirror was of someone different than the vibrant young woman who had left Atlanta. "Who am I now?" she muttered to herself, feeling the pain of losing not only her health, but also part of her identity. That night, she called her father for comfort. "Dad, I don't know how to handle this," Amara said, her voice cracking with emotion. "I feel so different, so lost." Charles, on the other end of the line, was silent for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "Amara, you will always be our daughter, no matter how you feel or how you look on the outside. What matters is what you carry inside, the strength, intelligence, and love that you always had. That is what defines who you are, and nothing can take that away from you." Amara let out a sigh, her father's words touching her deeply. "I will keep fighting, Dad, for you and for me." Days turned into months, and the harsh winter gave way to spring. Amara, still immersed in her treatment, began to notice subtle changes. Although the process was long and full of ups and downs, there was a glimmer of hope. Doctors saw signs that the treatment was working, and Amara began to feel a gradual improvement in her condition. However, the road was still difficult. The battle against the disease was not only physical but also mental and emotional. Amara had to learn to live with a new version of herself, a version she was still trying to come to terms with. She found strength in the new friendships she made at the treatment center. One of them was Marie, a French woman a little older than her who was also undergoing treatment. One sunny afternoon, as they strolled through the center's gardens, Marie tried to cheer Amara up. "You know, Amara, we are not defined only by what we lose," Marie said with a slight French accent. "We are defined by how we choose to live despite our losses." Amara reflected on Marie's words. "Maybe you're right, Marie. I think it's time for me to start accepting this new version of myself and see where it takes me." That conversation marked a turning point for Amara. Although the fight was far from over, she began to see her journey in a new light. It wasn't just a fight against the disease, but an opportunity to rediscover herself and grow in ways she had never imagined. She knew that no matter what happened, she would come home stronger and, perhaps, in some ways, an even better version of herself. The following months were a mix of progress and setbacks. Amara continued her treatment, enduring the ups and downs with a resilience that surprised even herself. The time she spent at the Swiss Medical Center, surrounded by the Alps, offered her moments of reflection, but also of deep solitude. It was a transformation, not only physically, but also mentally and emotionally. One afternoon, as she looked out of her bedroom window, watching the snow melt and reveal the vibrant green of spring, Amara thought about how much she had changed since her arrival in Switzerland. Her body, now thinner and more fragile, was no longer recognizable. However, it was her mind that was undergoing the greatest transformation. Amara was in a process of acceptance. There were days when she felt strong and ready to face any challenge, but there were also moments of doubt and fear. During one of these reflections, Dr. Maller, her family doctor, entered the room for a routine checkup. He was a middle-aged man with a calm demeanor and soft voice, qualities that always gave Amara a sense of calm. "How are you feeling today, Amara?" he asked, watching her closely. Amara sighed, looking away from the window to the doctor. "It's hard to deal with these changes and accept that I may never be the same again." The doctor nodded empathetically. "I understand what you're going through. The treatment is intense, and yes, it changes people, not just externally, but from within. However, these changes can bring new forms of strength and understanding that you haven't discovered yet." "But how can I accept myself like this?" Amara asked with a hint of desperation in her voice. "I can barely recognize myself. What if I never feel like myself again?" Dr. Maller smiled softly. "You'll never stop being who you are, Amara. But what it means to be yourself can evolve. Think of it as a metamorphosis. The changes can be painful, but they often result in something stronger and more resilient. And remember, the essence of who you are, your values, your memories, your love for life, none of that is lost." The doctor's words resonated with Amara. It was hard to believe, but there was an undeniable truth to what he said. Yes, she was changing, but that didn't necessarily mean she was losing her identity. On the contrary, she was transforming into a deeper and perhaps more authentic version of herself. A few days later, on a clear morning, Amara received a surprise visit. Marie, the French friend she had made at the center, appeared at her bedroom door with a smile and an idea. "Amara, let's go for a walk. The sun is shining, and I think we need some fresh air and perspective," Marie said, her eyes shining. Amara hesitated, but eventually agreed. She needed to get out of that room, even if just for a little while. As they walked along the mountain paths surrounding the center, Marie struck up a conversation as she always did, trying to distract Amara from her darker thoughts. "What will you do when you finally get home?" Marie asked as they admired the snow-capped mountains in the distance. Amara was silent for a moment. "The truth is, I'm scared to go back. What will I do? People won't recognize me. Even I have trouble recognizing myself." Marie stopped and turned to Amara, holding her firmly by the shoulders. "Amara, you are an incredible woman. These changes do not define who you are. Your essence, what makes you unique, is intact. And sometimes, it is necessary to lose something in order to discover what truly matters. Maybe when you return, you will find new paths, new ways to live life more authentically." Those words stayed with Amara as they continued their walk. Slowly, she began to realize that although she was changing, there were still aspects of her that remained the same. Her love for her family, her determination, and her search for purpose had not disappeared. Maybe, as Marie had said, she could find new ways to live her life that embraced this new version of herself. Over time, and as the treatment progressed, Amara began to notice that her body was responding better than expected. The pain lessened, and she began to regain some of her energy. The physical changes were still there, but now Amara saw them as battle scars, reminders of her struggle and resilience. In one of her last therapy sessions, Dr. Maller spoke about her progress. "Amara, you have been an exemplary patient, and I am very pleased to say that the treatment is working. Soon we can begin to talk about your return home." These words brought Amara a mix of relief and apprehension. She was eager to return to Atlanta, but she knew that returning would only be the beginning of a new stage in her life, a stage where she would have to face not only the reactions of others, but also the ultimate acceptance of who she had become. "I am ready, Dr. Maller," Amara said with a soft smile. She knew the road ahead would be long, but she was prepared to face it. After all, if she had survived everything she endured in Switzerland, what awaited her at home could not be worse. The doctor looked at her with a satisfied smile, seeing a renewed determination in Amara's eyes. "That's the Amara I've always known," she said in a tone that was a mix of pride and tenderness. "Remember, what you've been through here has been a transformation, not an ending. It's the beginning of a new journey, and you're more than ready for it." As she packed her bags, Amara couldn't help but feel a mix of sadness and excitement. On the one hand, she was leaving a place that had somehow transformed her. On the other hand, She was looking forward to reuniting with her family and seeing how this new version of herself would fit into her old life. She knew nothing would be the same as before, but for the first time in a long time, that didn't seem like a bad thing. The plane landed smoothly on the runway at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport in Atlanta. Amara looked out the window as the familiar landscape of her hometown unfolded before her. It was a clear, sunny day, but not even the heat. The sun could dissipate the knot in her stomach. She was home, but she couldn't shake the feeling of being a stranger in her own world. As the passengers began to disembark, Amara took a deep breath and prepared herself for what was to come. The past few months in Switzerland had been a constant struggle, but she knew the real challenge was just beginning. The transformation she had experienced was not only physical, but emotional and mental as well. Now she had to figure out how this new Amara would fit into her old life. When she finally stepped out of the terminal, her eyes immediately met. Her parents, Charles and Evely, were waiting for her with expressions of relief and excitement. They ran to hug her, not caring that Amara looked different. To them, she would always be the daughter they loved so much. "My dear Amara," Evely said, hugging her tightly, "we are so happy that you are back." Amara felt tears well up in her eyes as she hugged her back. "I am happy to be home too, Mom. I missed you both so much." Charles, a man of few words, wrapped them both in a warm hug. "You are so strong, daughter. We are so proud of you." The drive back home was quiet but filled with emotions. Amara looked out at the familiar landscape of Atlanta, feeling a mix of comfort and unease. She was back in the place where she had grown up, but she knew that many things had changed, both in the city and in herself. Arriving at the Dady's mansion, Amara hesitated a moment before entering. The surroundings were so familiar, so full of memories, that it almost seemed as if time had not passed. But she knew that she could not go back to being the person she was before she left. "Dear Amara, we know it will take time for you to adjust," Evely said, noticing her daughter's hesitation. "We are here for you. There is no rush. Take all the time you need." "Thank you, Mom," Amara replied, touched by her parents' understanding. "I just need a little time to process everything." In the days that followed, Amara began to adjust to her new routine at home. She spent her days reading, strolling through the gardens, and rediscovering the city she loved so much. Yet, despite all the comfort and support from her family, she couldn't help but feel out of place. The changes in her appearance were still a source of insecurity, and she found herself avoiding mirrors, trying not to focus on what had changed. One night over dinner, Charles suggested that Amara go back to the bank to catch up on family matters. "Amara, I know you're still recovering, but I'd like you to come back to the bank soon. There are some inheritance matters we need to sort out, and I think it's time for you to start getting involved again," he said in a gentle but firm tone. Amara looked at her father in surprise. "Do you think I'm ready for that, Dad? I'm not sure I'm the same person I was before." Charles smiled, though there was seriousness in his eyes. "You'll always be my daughter, Amara. What has changed is your experience and your strength, and those changes have only made you more capable. I am not asking you to return to the bank as you were before, but to bring the new perspective you have gained. I am sure it will be valuable." Evely nodded, supporting her husband's words. "I agree with your father. We want you to feel part of the family business, but at your own pace. This could be a good opportunity for you to begin to reconnect." Amara considered the proposal. The idea of returning to the bank, a place that had once been so familiar to her, now overwhelmed her. But at the same time, she knew she couldn't run away forever. She needed to face this new reality and figure out how she would fit into it. "Okay," Amara finally said. "Tomorrow I will go to the bank and see what needs to be done. I just ask that you be patient with me." "Of course, dear," Charles replied, pleased with his daughter's decision. "We are here for you every step of the way." The next morning, Amara woke up early, feeling a nervousness she hadn't experienced in a long time. She dressed carefully, choosing a simple but elegant outfit. She knew that appearances mattered less, but she wanted to feel as safe as possible. When she arrived at the bank, the place felt familiar and distant at the same time. Glass walls, marble floors, rows of desks. Everything was the same as always. But to Amara, everything felt new. She walked with firm steps, trying to ignore the curious glances of the employees. Approaching the receptionist's counter, she greeted her politely, although with a hint of doubt. "How can I help you, ma'am?" the receptionist asked, trying to be polite. "Yes, I'm Amara. I'm here to discuss some matters with the bank's lawyers," Amara replied, keeping her tone calm. The receptionist hesitated, and Amara was able to see the confusion in her eyes. "Miss, I'm sorry, but I didn't know that such a meeting was going to be held today. Please wait a moment." Amara felt a growing uneasiness as the receptionist made a call to verify the information. Soon, one of the managers approached with an expression of uncertainty. "Excuse me, ma'am, but I was not informed that Mr. Dedes' daughter would be here today," the manager said, looking at Amara suspiciously. Amara's heart raced. "It's me. I'm Mr. Dedes' daughter. I must be here at my father's request." The manager exchanged a glance with the receptionist, visibly perplexed. "Ma'am, I need you to wait a moment while we go over a few things." Before Amara could respond, the manager signaled to the security guards, who slowly began to approach. She felt someone waving at her. Amara felt outraged and scared as she realized what was happening. "What is going on here?" Amara asked in a shaky voice. "I said I am Amara Dedes, the daughter of the bank owners. You know me." But the manager shook his head as if he was handling a delicate situation. "Ma'am, if you cannot prove your identity, I'm afraid we will have to ask you to leave." Amara was stunned. "This is ridiculous. Call my parents now. They will clear this up." Before she could react, security guards began to escort her out. Outrage gave way to humiliation, and Amara felt helpless in the face of the situation. "I'm not lying. I am the daughter of the owners of this bank," Amara shouted. But her voice was lost in the coldness of the situation. Finally, outside the bank, Amara pulled out her phone with shaking hands and called her father. The call was answered almost immediately. "Dad, they are kicking me out of the bank," she said, her voice cracking with emotion. "Amara, what are you saying?" "I told them who I am, but they didn't believe me. They thought I was lying," Amara explained, feeling completely vulnerable. "I'm on my way right now," Charles said firmly. "Stay where you are. Your mother and I will be there in a few minutes and we'll sort this out." As she waited, Amara felt a mix of shame and rage. It wasn't just that she had been doubted, but the brutality of being treated like an outsider in her own family's bank. Charles and Evely quickly arrived, accompanied by a contingent of security and police. When they saw Amara outside the bank with tears in her eyes and a devastated expression, they were overcome with outrage. "This is unacceptable," Charles exclaimed, marching towards the bank entrance. Evely took Amara's hand, trying to comfort her. "We're here now, sweetheart. Everything will be okay." Inside the bank, the atmosphere was tense. As Charles and Evely entered the building, the employees were visibly nervous. "What kind of establishment is this where my own daughter is treated like a criminal?" Charles demanded, his voice filled with authority and rage. The manager, who had escorted Amara out earlier, came running in, pale as a sheet. "Mr. Dedes, I didn't realize. We were just trying to follow protocol," the manager stammered. "Protocol?" Charles repeated, barely containing his anger. "Your protocol means kicking my daughter out of your own bank? What kind of training do you give your employees?" The manager tried to apologize, but Charles had already lost his patience. "I want everyone involved in this incident fired immediately. This is an unacceptable mistake, and I will not tolerate this kind of behavior in my bank." The normally more composed Evely nodded her head in agreement, showing her indignation. "And this is a lesson for you to never judge someone by their appearance again. What happened today is inexcusable." Amara stood watching her parents defend her, but she felt a deep sense of injustice. Even with the resolution, the damage had already been done. She had been humiliated and cast into doubt, and that was something that would be hard to forget. Amara began planning her public statement, fully aware of the challenge that awaited her. Exposing her pain and vulnerability would be difficult, but she also recognized it as a unique opportunity to transform a negative experience into something positive. On a cloudy morning a few weeks after the incident at the bank, Amara sat in front of cameras and microphones in a conference room, ready to share her story with the world. Her parents were by her side, offering support, and a small team of lawyers and advisors was present to make sure everything went smoothly. As the lights came on and the cameras began to roll, Amara took a deep breath and began to speak. "My name is Amara Daves," they said. She said, her voice strong but laden with emotion. "I'm here today to talk about what happened to me, but more than that, to talk about what it means to be judged by your appearance, especially when that appearance is the result of a fight for your life." She spoke of her experience in Switzerland, of the treatment that had saved her life but had also changed her profoundly. She described the fear of returning to a world that might not recognize her, and recounted the humiliation she faced at the bank, being treated like a stranger in a place that had always been her own. "I was rejected because my appearance changed," she said, her words echoing in the silent room. "But my essence, who I am, has not changed, and that's what I want everyone to understand. Those who face illness and go through physical transformations are no less deserving of respect or consideration. They deserve to be treated with the same dignity as anyone else." Amara paused, looking directly into the camera as if trying to reach each viewer. "I seek justice, yes, but I also seek change. I want people to understand that respect and action are values that cannot be changed. Acceptance should not be based on appearance, but on the recognition of the humanity we all share. If my story can help change the way we see and treat each other, then this fight will have been worth it." When she finished speaking, the room was silent for a moment before erupting into supportive applause. She knew the road ahead would be challenging, but in that moment she felt like she had taken the first step toward something bigger than any legal battle. She had begun to use her voice to make a difference, a power that no one could take away from her. As she left the conference room, Evely hugged her tightly. "I'm so proud of you, Amara. You were amazing." "Thank you, Mom," Amara replied, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. "I just hope this makes a difference." Charles, who had maintained a calm demeanor until then, smiled proudly at his daughter. "You've already made a difference, Amara, and we're going to make sure the world hears your voice." After Amara's public statement, the world around her changed rapidly. Her story gained national attention, shared in newspapers, on television shows, and on social media. Her words resonated with many people who had faced similar challenges, creating a wave of support and solidarity she had never imagined. However, with this attention came criticism and questioning. Some doubted her story, while others accused her of seeking fame or financial gain. As Amara grappled with this new reality, she knew there would be consequences for going public with her story. However, the intensity of the response, both positive and negative, left her shaken. "I knew it would be hard," Amara confessed to Evely in the living room, "but I didn't expect people to be so cruel. Some of the messages I get are hard to ignore." Evely, ever the voice of reason, took her daughter's hand. "My love, you did something incredibly brave. When you stand up for a cause, there will always be those who try to bring you down. But remember, the voices of the people you're helping are louder than any criticism." Amara sighed, trying to absorb her mother's words. "I know, Mom, but it still hurts. I feel like I'm being attacked for something I didn't choose. I didn't choose to be sick. I didn't choose these changes." "You didn't choose the illness, Amara," Evely said, looking her daughter in the eyes. "But you chose how to respond to it. And that, my dear, is what makes you so strong." As Amara processed everything that was happening around her, Charles focused on ensuring the lawsuit against the bank moved forward. He knew this was a pivotal moment, not just for Amara's justice, but for the message the lawyers wanted to get out to the world. "Ready?" Charles said one night after a long meeting with the legal team. "They think we have a strong case for discrimination, and they're confident we can win. But Amara, this is going to be a long, difficult fight." Amara nodded, fully aware of the challenge ahead. "I'm ready, Dad. I know this will be complicated, but I'm willing to see it through." Charles responded with unmistakable pride. "I also want you to know that you don't have to do it alone. We're all by your side." With the lawsuit underway, Amara's life became a routine of meetings with lawyers, interviews, and attempts to maintain some normalcy amid the chaos. As the days passed, she realized this fight was more than a legal case. It was a chance to reconnect with the world in a new way. One afternoon, while reviewing documents with her lawyers, Amara received a call. Unexpected love from a civil rights organization that had heard her story and wanted to meet with her. "Amara," said the voice on the other end, "we are an organization that fights discrimination in all its forms. Your story has touched us deeply, and we would like to offer you our support. We believe that together we can turn your experience into a platform for real change." Amara was surprised and touched by the offer. "I would love to work with you. I believe that together we can make a significant difference." On Memorial Day, Amara was warmly welcomed by a group of activists and community leaders who spoke about strategies for awareness campaigns and ways to educate the public about the challenges faced by people like Amara, who go through physical and emotional transformations due to illness or other circumstances. "We want to give a voice to those who are often ignored or marginalized," said one of the organization's leaders. "Her story is a powerful example of what it means to fight for dignity and respect, and we want to amplify that message." As the weeks went by, Amara became more and more involved with the organization. Together they planned awareness campaigns, participated in community events, and began to build a support network for others facing similar situations. Amara also used her platform to speak about the importance of recognizing and respecting people's humanity, regardless of their appearance or circumstances. One day during a meeting, Amara joined the organization to support people living with the same issue. Upon arriving at the organization's headquarters, Amara met a young woman who had traveled from another state to see her. "I just wanted to thank you for everything you're doing," the young woman said with tears in her eyes. "I too went through a physical transformation due to an illness, and seeing someone like you who isn't afraid to fight for respect gives me the strength to keep going." Amara was deeply touched by the young woman's words. "Thank you for sharing your story with me. Knowing that I can help, even a little, that was all I hoped for." The young woman's gratitude reaffirmed the importance of Amara's work. Not only was she seeking justice for herself, but she was becoming a voice for many others facing similar challenges. One day, as she walked through the mansion's gardens with her parents, Amara reflected on the journey she had undertaken since returning to Atlanta. "Remember when I came back from Switzerland?" she asked Charles and Evely. "I was so scared and unsure of what the future held for me." Evely smiled, remembering those difficult days. "Yes, I remember well, but look at you now, Amara. You have grown into an incredible woman, full of strength and determination. We are so proud of you." Charles, always the man of few words, simply nodded, but his eyes said a lot. "You are our daughter, Amara. We always knew you had this strength within you. We are by your side now and always." Amara felt a surge of gratitude and love for her parents. "I couldn't have done any of this without you. Thank you for always believing in me." "You have given us even more reasons to believe," Evely said, hugging her tightly. "We are in this together until the end." As the sun set over Atlanta, Amara knew the fight was far from over, but with her family by her side and the strength she had found within herself, she felt ready to face any challenge that came her way. The lawsuit against the bank was moving forward, and the case was gaining more and more media attention. Amara found herself at the center of a legal battle that not only concerned her right to be recognized as the legitimate daughter of the Edis family, but also the prejudice that many people face every day. The bank's lawyers attempted to discredit Amara's story by suggesting that she was impersonating someone she was not, taking advantage of her changes in appearance for financial gain. This tactic infuriated Amara, but also strengthened her resolve to press on. "This is absolute nonsense," she declared in the heat of the battle. Amara was not going to allow injustice to prevail. During a crucial meeting with her legal team, she exclaimed, "This is absolute nonsense. The bank's strategy is to discredit what I have experienced as a weapon against me, but I will not allow the lawyers to intimidate me." Maintaining her composure, her lawyer calmly replied, "I understand your frustration, Amara, but this is part of their strategy. They want to destabilize you emotionally and make you look unstable. We must stay focused and use this to our advantage." Charles, who had remained silent until then, she spoke with firm resolve. "I will not back down, Amara. We will prove that the truth is on our side and that you are the rightful heir of the Edie's family, regardless of the physical changes you have undergone." Evely, sitting next to Amara, gently stroked her daughter's arm, offering silent support. "They underestimated you, and that will be their downfall." The night before her testimony, Amara sat in the mansion's garden gazing at the stars. Evely moved closer, sensing her daughter's concern. "Are you ready for tomorrow?" she asked softly. "I don't know," Amara admitted, her gaze fixed on the sky. "I'm nervous, Mom. I know they're going to try to destroy me, and I don't know if I'm ready for that." Evely sat next to her and took her hand. "You've faced much worse, Amara, and you've overcome them all. This is just another challenge, and you have the truth on your side. No matter what they try, you know who you are." Amara took a deep breath, absorbing her mother's words. "I know you're right, but what if I can't do it? What if I can't answer the questions properly?" "You're stronger than you think, dear," Evely replied, squeezing her daughter's hand. "Besides, you're not alone. We're all here to support you no matter what." The next day came with a mix of anxiety and determination. Amara entered the courtroom with her parents at her side, feeling the weight of the moment. The room was filled with journalists, spectators, and lawyers from both sides, all attentive to the progress of the case. The bank's lawyer, a middle-aged man with a piercing gaze, began his questioning, aiming to destabilize Amara. He asked her about her illness and the changes in her appearance, implying that she was using these transformations to manipulate the situation. "Miss Eads," he began in a cold, calculating tone, "do you admit that before your trip to Switzerland, your appearance was it considerably different than it is now?" "Yes, I admit that," Amara replied, keeping her composure. "And do you admit that when you returned, many people who knew you before had trouble recognizing you?" "Yes, but not my family or my closest friends. They knew who I was, no matter what my appearance was." The lawyer smiled, as if he had found a crack in the defense. "But how do you expect employees who have never seen you before to believe that you are the rightful heir, based solely on your word?" Amara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the question. "I hope they recognize me not by my appearance, but by my actions. I am Amara Eads, daughter of Charles and Adeline Eads. The documents and history prove it all. My appearance has changed, but my identity has not." The lawyer tried to insist, but Amara answered each question calmly and determinedly. When the questioning was over, she felt exhausted, but also relieved, knowing that she had done the best she could. As the media attention intensified and public support grew, the day of the verdict arrived. Edis's family gathered in the courtroom, waiting with bated breath for the judge's decision. A man with a serious expression began to read his verdict, and the silence in the room was palpable. After considering all the evidence and testimony, the judge concluded, "Miss Amara Eads is, in fact, the legitimate daughter of Charles and Adeline Eads, and as such, has every right to be recognized as the heir and rightful owner of the bank and the other properties involved." Amara felt a surge of relief and excitement. The judge continued, "The behavior of the bank employees in treating Miss Eads with suspicion and distrust based on physical appearance is a clear violation of civil rights. I order that the bank adequately compensate the damages caused." Amara could hardly believe what she was hearing. Justice had been served. She looked at her visibly emotional parents and felt immense gratitude for everything they had been through together. Evely hugged her tightly, tears streaming down her face. "You did it, Amara. We did it. Charles, always a man of few words, simply nodded, but his pride was evident. "I am so proud of you, my daughter." Amara smiled, feeling stronger than ever. She knew this victory was just the beginning. Her story was not just about personal justice, but about a broader fight for respect and dignity for all who face similar challenges. As they left the courtroom, greeted by a crowd of supporters, Amara paused to look at the people who had come to find her. Despite all the hardships, she realized there was something beautiful in their path. She had found her voice and was now ready to use it to make a difference. "Let's go home," Evely said, still holding her father's hand. "Daughter." "Yes," Amara replied, feeling a new sense of inner peace. "But this is just the first of many victories. We still have a lot of work to do." Thank you for joining us until the end of this story. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed creating this content for you. Don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all our updates. If you want to share your thoughts or experiences in the comments, we will be happy to read them and respond to you all. Until the next video, we send you a warm hug.